The last time I waited. After 10 years of love, all I got was an excuse. Sorry, Maya. It's an emergency. That's what my alpha mate, Cassian Montclair, said as he left me alone halfway through our anniversary dinner, again. This time, I didn't chase after him. I didn't need to. A few hours later, I saw the truth for myself, a photo posted by his childhood flame, Isabel. Cassian was gently cradling her ankle, his eyes full of worry. Just a small twist while cleaning the roof. It's almost healed, but Cassian still rushed right over. He's always there when I need him. I'm the luckiest woman alive. 10 years ago, I would have cried. Maybe begged. Or confronted him and been told I was too emotional. But now? I finished my dinner alone. In silence. I had already accepted a healing mission far away in the Eastern Territory, my mentor's final request. I decided to leave without a word, hoping for a clean break. But just before I drove off, a video from Isabel arrived. She and Cassian were playing Truth or Dare, giggling, calling each other baby. I didn't react. I simply replied, as long as you're having fun. That's when the panic set in. Cassian's message came fast and frantic. Maya, why aren't you mad? Don't you love me anymore? He searched the entire pack for me, desperate to explain. But by the time he realized I was gone, it was already too late. Cassian Montclair had only taken 2 bites of his steak when he received the call. I noticed his expression change to one of worry and heartache before he abruptly stood up. What? I'll be right there. That call seemed to take up all of his attention. It wasn't until he got to the door that he paused, as if remembering I was still at the table. He turned back and said, Sorry, Maya, there's an emergency in the pack, I need to step out for a while. Go ahead. I turned away, lowered my gaze, and took a small piece of steak into my mouth. It tasted delicious but bitter, as my tears streamed down and blended with each bite. Cassian could not see my expression. He was taken aback by my calm demeanor. He returned and hugged me from behind. Be good and wait for me. I'll bring you a gift. He hurried away. Swallowing my grief, I ate the meal bite by bite. In the end, we couldn't even enjoy our 10th anniversary together. I waited a long time, but Cassian never returned. My wolf shifted from anticipation to loneliness, finally emitting a soft, choked whimper. To brighten my mood, I picked up my phone, only to find a photo and caption Isabel Beaumont had just posted. Cassian was seen kneeling on one knee, holding Isabel's foot gently. He remained completely focused while carefully applying medicine. Meanwhile, Isabel sat half reclining on the sofa, her eyes filled with moved tears. A warm floor lamp bathed them in golden light, creating an intimate, cozy atmosphere. I twisted my ankle while cleaning the roof. It improved quickly, but Cassian rushed in the moment he heard. You are always available when I need you, no matter what. I certainly am luckier than any other woman. I stared at the words, my fingers trembling slightly. Cassian rushed to Isabel's side as soon as she suffered a minor injury. On the other hand, I waited all night and did not get a single message from him. I closed my eyes and curled up in the corner of my bed. My chest felt heavy, as if something was blocking my breathing. I don't like crying, but they kept falling uncontrollably. Late at night, I heard familiar footsteps. He slipped into bed and gently drew me into his arms, kissing my forehead with guilt. Sometimes I wondered if I had truly understood what he was thinking. The next morning, I prepared breakfast for myself. Cashin entered the dining room just as I was bringing the cooked meat and juice to the table. He looked at the food with a slight frown. "Why didn't you make mine?" He had always preferred strong-flavored breakfasts, and I usually made a separate serving for him. "Sorry, I forgot today. You can go eat at the pack's dining hall." I quickly finished my meal and prepared to head to headquarters to pack for work. Cashin didn't seem pleased, but he suddenly remembered something and looked at me with concern. "I know you're mad about last night. But you've always had issues with Isabel, so I'm not mad. Isabel's an Omega living alone. Of course, I was worried when something happened to her. I'm really not mad." "Stop this, Maya. I've told you over and over I only see Isabel as a sister. Why can't you understand that?" I said I'm not mad. I didn't realize my voice was rising. Seeing the shock on his face, I quickly controlled my emotions. "I really do understand. But I have to go to headquarters now. We can talk later." I ignored his complicated expression and stumbled out the door. My job at the pack headquarters was to treat warriors who had been severely injured. As the pack's most gifted chief healer, my healing abilities were known throughout the Werewolf Alliance. My hands could heal injuries that other healers considered hopeless, even resurrecting warriors on the verge of death from silver poisoning. Even severely wounded patients from other packs frequently traveled long distances to seek my assistance. Every time I saw a gravely wounded soldier stand up and embrace their comrade after my treatment, I felt a strong sense of accomplishment. That's why, even as a Luna, I chose to continue studying the healing arts. My hands hovered over a patient's wound, and a soft healing light flowed slowly from them. Shattered bones began to knit back together with my energy. "Maya, I knew you'd be here." The sound of that voice made my hands tremble slightly. My mentor, Elder Healer Eliza Sterling, was the pack's most respected healer. She hadn't contacted me personally in years. "Master," I addressed her respectfully. Eliza looked at the warrior I had just treated and nodded in approval. "Your healing techniques have become even more refined. At this point, you've likely surpassed me." I shake my head. "Only because I had a good teacher. That's exactly why I've come to you today." Her voice became husky. "There's been a severe silver dust leak in the Eastern Territory. It's caused massive casualties, and the entire area is under lockdown. At this point, only you have the ability to save the critically injured." I looked up and saw that my mentor had set aside her pride, her tone urgent and pleading. "Maya, I know how hard it is for a Luna to leave her alpha. But the pack, your people, they truly need you. How long will I be gone?" "At least 3 years. The area is part of the border's restricted zone. To prevent further contamination, the whole region will be completely sealed off. No one can enter or leave. There will be no communication with the outside world until the mission ends." Eliza's voice became hoarse. "For your safety, you'll have to give up your Luna identity temporarily and go undercover as a common healer. This will be a top-secret medical assignment, not even your Alpha can know your location. I had never seen her like this before. Her eyes lacked authority and were filled with pain and desperation. She wasn't commanding me. She begged. In that moment, I realized the situation was far more serious than I had anticipated. I remained silent, my heart torn in two. On one side, there was my Alpha, who insisted I was his only one. On the other hand, there were my people, those who were blood related to me. Finally, I gave a bitter smile. Master, may I think about it? Eliza sighed. Of course. But the injured are waiting for you, Maya. We don't know how much longer they can hold on. After finishing up the rest of my work, I received an unexpected message from Cashin saying he was going to cook dinner. I will be cooking tonight. Wait for me to get home so we can eat together. The message surprised me. Since we met, I've been in charge of preparing every meal. When I was exhausted from work, I jokingly asked him to cook once. At the time, he had gently held me and said, "My cooking is terrible, I'm afraid you won't like it, besides, I enjoy eating the food you prepare." His words moved me deeply. I decided to learn how to cook so that he could always enjoy delicious food. Despite the occasional burn, I persevered without complaint. Until one day, Isabel proudly boasted in front of me, "Cashin's cooking is amazing. He always makes my favorite dishes just for me." Maya, I'm sure you eat his cooking all the time too, right? We fought after that. Cashin used his usual tone of indifference to say, "Isabel can't cook. Her health isn't great either. She's prone to allergies, and she can't always eat out. She's not like you. You can do everything. As a mature Luna, you shouldn't be fussing over these little things." Later, I forgave him again after his gentle persuasion. Love is like poison, it deprives me of reason. Still, I couldn't resist responding to his message. Okay. When I walked through the door, I was greeted by the smell of food. Cashin's voice called from the kitchen, "Maya, go wash your hands. It's almost ready." I sat quietly at the table, emotions rushing through my chest. I wasn't expecting him to actually cook. If this had happened on any other day, I would have been ecstatic. Cashin quickly brought out 4 dishes and a soup. Even though it was simple home-style food, I could tell right away that his cooking was quite good. "Maya," he said with a trembling voice, "why have you been ignoring me these past few days? I know you're upset about Isabel. But she just twisted her ankle that day. That's why I went to take care of her. I wasn't trying to deceive you." "Not trying?" My heart ached violently, but I responded calmly, Okay." His face darkened as he noticed my indifference. He assumed I was still sulking. "Maya Donalds, can't you calm down? Don't always be so emotional. Isabel and I grew up together, her parents died for the pack, and I promised them I'd look after her. Besides, she doesn't even have her wolf yet." I could feel his frustration rising, but I only smiled gently. "I understand. You don't have to explain. Could you please tell me what you really think?" He snapped. "How many times do I have to say it? Isabel is like a sister to me. Why aren't you believing me? Always Isabel. Every conversation between us had become about her. And now he's raising his voice at me for that so-called sister. There was nothing more to say, Cashin's actions had said it all. I felt all of my strength drain away, and my hand holding the chopsticks felt numb. I'd message my mentor soon and accept the assignment. After all, I no longer identified as Cashin's only one. On a stormy night 3 days later, Cashin stumbled through the front door. He was soaked from head to toe, water dripping from his clothes, and his lips were pale from the cold. His entire body shivered lightly. He looked at me directly, his eyes filled with raw anticipation. I just fought back an intruder in the pouring rain. Not a single scratch on me. I looked at him quietly and said softly, "Then, go take a hot shower." Something about his appearance reminded me of when I first fell in love with him. Back then, I got lost alone in the woods near the border. My foot was bleeding and swollen from being caught in a trap. The night was pitch black, with no moon, only the distant growls of wild animals and the wind cutting through the trees. As I curled up on the ground, pain and fear swept over me like a wave. Then Cashin showed up. He had tracked me down by scent, fought off 2 rogues with only his bare hands, and carried me back to the pack without stopping. His forehead was scratched and his arm was bleeding, but he never let go of me, not once. He seemed to be afraid that if he let go, I would vanish. His eyes shone that night, just as they do today. I snapped out of the memory and noticed a flicker of hurt in his eyes. I fought for 5 hours in that storm, and you didn't even ask how I was doing? Every time I went out, you would track me using the mate link. You'd be at the door before I even arrived home. But today, nothing. Not even one check-in. Maya, you have changed. Have I, or did you change first? His words cut deeply, but I forced myself to remain calm. You're the strongest alpha in the whole pack now, I said, and I trust you to look after yourself. And honestly, I didn't want the rest of the pack to believe that your mate does not trust you. Cashin froze. I could tell he remembered what he had previously said to me. Why are you always like this? I'm not a kid anymore. I can care for myself. Are you constantly calling me? People are beginning to laugh at me. That day, I spent hours tracking him down to ensure his safety. Instead of being grateful, he lashed out at me as if I were a burden. I didn't want to go down that road again. With the upcoming assignment to treat the Eastern Pack members, I needed to keep my mind and heart clear. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm. His hand remained cold, but his grip was surprisingly strong. Maya, I think we should talk. You and I. Just then, his phone rang. I caught a glimpse of the name Isabel on the screen. Bitterness rose in my throat. Cashin looked at the caller ID and declined the call without saying anything. However, the phone rang almost immediately and relentlessly. I noticed the hesitation in his eyes, the internal struggle. He sighed and gave me an apologetic look. She must really need something. Please give me 1 minute, okay? I gently removed my arm from his grasp without saying anything. He stood there, frozen, his gaze fixed on me as I walked away, watching until I vanished into the other room. Cashin had recently expressed frustration with how distant I had become. He began leaving early in the morning and returning late at night, deliberately avoiding me. He even severed our mate link. I sat by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the floor, a dull ache growing in my chest. Part of me wanted to pursue him and demand answers like I used to. However, given our impending separation, perhaps this quiet distance was for the best. Then, 5 nights later, he unexpectedly asked, "Will you accompany me to the full moon gathering this time?" I almost bit my tongue, but when I looked up, there was genuine hope in his eyes. Sure, Cashin had brought me to pack events before, but this wasn't any ordinary gathering. This was the full moon ritual, a private circle for those closest to him. It wasn't about the ceremony itself, it was about who got to be there. Only a few of his oldest, most trusted friends were permitted to attend, and even their friends weren't always invited. I tried to attend once before. He initially made vague excuses, but when I insisted, he exploded, "Maya, could you please give me some space? Your jealousy is suffocating me. This is the time I spend with my friends. Can't you give me anything that's all mine?" I remember questioning why Isabel was allowed to attend. His voice became icy. "Isabel is different. We grew up together, so everyone knows her. She doesn't even own a wolf yet. The majority of them still do not accept her. I will not let her sit alone. God, Maya, stop being paranoid." And now here he was, asking me to join him. I almost said yes, but I had a mission coming up that required my complete attention and preparation. Not to mention that I'd never fit in with his group, we always rubbed each other wrong. So I shook my head. With how hectic things have been lately, I don't think I'll have time. Cashin abruptly stood and grabbed my hand. "Maya, what's up with you?" His tone conveyed both confusion and frustration. "I understand you're upset about Isabel. I've been giving you space all week, but now I'm losing my mind. You are not just distant. You are cold. You are my Luna. You are supposed to trust me. Unconditionally." I gently released my hand. "You're overthinking. Packing issues have kept me busy, that's all." "Fine. Whatever." His voice became sharp and hard. That familiar alpha edge pride, dominance resurfaced again. We didn't talk for the rest of dinner, just finished it in silence. A few nights later, Cashin and Isabel attended the full moon gathering. Unfortunately, the full moon accelerated the silver infection that was already spreading throughout the Eastern Territory. Suddenly, everything changed. I had to leave early, urgently. The car was packed and ready to transport me to a classified mission zone deep within the restricted Eastern Territory. Before leaving, Elder Healer Eliza turned to me in a gentle voice and said, "Maya, even though this mission is strictly confidential, you can still contact someone to say goodbye. 3 years are a long time." I hesitated before picking up my phone. Maybe Cashin deserved one last chance. The screen buzzed in my hand as soon as I unlocked it. My heart skipped a beat as I realized it might be him. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was a video from Isabel. In it, she and Cashin sat beside the bonfire at the full moon gathering. She wore a flowy white dress with flames dancing in her hair, and she leaned in close, almost too close. Truth or dare? Someone inquired. Dare, Cashin said, smiling, his voice softer than I had heard in a long time. Isabel gave him a playful look. Well, call me baby. The audience laughed and cheered. Isabel smirked at the camera, her eyes filled with smug satisfaction. Baby, Cashin murmured softly, but with a tenderness I didn't recognize. She immediately nestled against his shoulder and giggled, ah! Cashin is being shy. The video was cut off. Isabel's message followed, sorry, Maya. We were just playing truth or dare, and it was all in good fun, I hope you don't mind. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. I looked at her draped against him and saw how he allowed her, the way he looked at her, the ease and warmth. Everything blurred. I could not breathe. Nonetheless, I wiped away my tears, forced a smile, and replied, no worries. Have fun tonight. Moments later, Cashin's texts poured in like a storm. Maya, why are you saying that? It was a meaningless game. Where are you and why aren't you picking up? Come see me right now. I did not respond. I turned the phone off and set it aside. Then I looked up to elder healer Eliza, who was watching me with concern. We can go now, I commented. There's no one I need to call. The car drove out into the misty rain, towards the Eastern Territories' sealed-off area, where no one could follow us. Nobody would find me there. Cashin stood alone in the empty room. On the table was her Luna insignia, a silver pocket watch engraved with "To my dearest Alpha. Forever yours, Maya," with the signed mate bond dissolution agreement. She was gone. He stared at the items, frozen in place, as the truth washed over him like a thick fog. Then he snapped. He bolted out the door, tearing through the compound like a man possessed, searching every street and every corner of the pack for any sign of her. Rain poured down, soaking through his clothes and turning the dirt roads into muck, but he didn't stop. That's when he noticed a familiar figure slip into the alley behind the tavern. Isabel. Maybe she knew where Maya went. He followed, and what he saw in the moonlight stopped him cold. Isabel was wrapped around a man, her clothes rumpled, and her lips parted into a breathless sigh. Isabel tilted her head back, moaning softly, as the man wrapped one arm around her waist and kissed her bare shoulder, leaving a trail of bruised skin in his wake. "You're incredible, Alaric," she exclaimed, expertly undoing his belt. "Giving you information about the pack was the best decision ever. Unlike that idiot Cashin, who still treats me like a little sister." Alaric gave a low, amused chuckle. "And you said he drops everything when you play damsel in distress? He is not fit to lead even a flea pack." "Right." Isabel purred. "The last time I called him was on his anniversary with Maya. I claimed I had twisted my ankle. He ditched her in an instant. God, I was just messing with them, but watching the two most powerful people in the pack dance in my hand? Honestly? It feels like victory. All those late-night emergencies, the mysterious injuries, it was all a game, a setup." Cashin believed everything he said, and he had repeatedly hurt Maya for her. He stood frozen in the shadows, feeling as if something inside his chest had been ripped open. He'd always treated Isabel like a family member, protecting and trusting her. And all along, she had been mocking and manipulating him. But what shattered him even more was the sudden, gut-wrenching realization that Maya was correct all along. Instead of listening, he crushed her, doubted her, and pushed her aside. That fool actually thought you needed saving. Alaric sneered. What a joke. Exactly. Isabel laughed, clearly pleased with herself. You know, I've been secretly sending Maya clips of me and Cashin together, just to get under her skin. Imagining her fuming with jealousy gets me all worked up. I had to run to you for a brief moment. Release. You wicked little thing, Alaric said with a smile. But what's in it for you? Are you dumb? Isabel's voice dropped into a calculating tone. Once Maya is gone and I become Luna, we'll have full access to the pack's resources. I have been poisoning her tea for weeks, gradually weakening her healing abilities. She will soon be unable to qualify as a healer. When that happens, Cashin will have no choice but to end the bond. Well, she's gone now, exactly. It worked out better than I expected. She isn't coming back. And when the dust settles, I'll be the only one still standing by Cashin's side. Cashin's fists clenched so tightly that his nails drew blood from his palms. He remembered Maya's tired smile, her hesitant words, and how her body had thinned and weakened. He'd missed everything, he'd ignored her pain and dismissed her warnings. All the while, he was defending a viper. His vision blurred with fury, and his eyes burned red. He remembered that one of Maya's colleagues had casually mentioned that she hadn't been herself lately, that she was always tired and struggling with treatments. Maya never spoke, blamed him, or begged. He raised a trembling hand and slapped himself hard across the face. Then he stepped out from the shadows. Get out of my pack. His voice was deathly calm, like ice cracking in deep water. Isabel turned around, her face ghostly pale. Cashin. Wait and listen. This isn't as it appears from now on, he said coldly, you and your lover are banished. Permanently. I will not show mercy if you step foot on our territory again. His voice cut through the alley like a blade, brimming with rage and the power of an alpha on edge. Betray me once, he said, his voice dropping into a deadly growl, and you'll learn exactly what it means to cross an alpha. The wind howled behind him. Isabel finally realized Cashin was no longer her fool. The following day, Isabel and Alaric were kicked out of the group. A torrential downpour soaked the ground as the guards forced them to the border. This is entirely your fault. Alaric shoved Isabel hard, his voice brimming with rage. If you hadn't gotten so arrogant, we wouldn't have been caught. Isabel stumbled and fell into the mud, staring up at him in disbelief. This was the man who had once whispered sweet nothings into her ear and promised her the world. But you promised to take care of me. Alaric laughed coldly, take care of you. What do you have to offer besides your body? You don't even own a wolf, and you thought you could be Luna? Do not make me laugh. He turned and walked away without another glance. Isabel realized he had never cared for her, she had been nothing more than a pawn used to gain access to the pack's resources, and now, without the pack's protection and her own wolf, she was left to fend for herself. She drifted from place to place, latching onto rogue wolves just to survive. She traded her body for scraps of food and a night's shelter, only to be discarded like trash when they got what they desired. She had once been the most dazzling Omega in the pack, one that even the Luna had to accommodate, but she was now nothing more than a filthy, ragged shadow of her former self. She wandered the forest, surviving on leftovers scavenged from others. At night, she curled up in hollow tree trunks, trembling as eerie howls echoed far away. Sometimes she would reflect on her past, how she used to wear the prettiest dresses, bask in admiration, and have cashin wrapped around her finger. And how she threw it all away, breaking the heart of the only man who truly loved her. Now, karma had caught up. One stormy night, a pack of rogue wolves surrounded her. When her gaze met their greedy stares, she knew she had to sell her body for food again, but this time, they showed her no mercy. They took what they wanted and abandoned her in the mud, stealing her last bit of food. A month later, as dusk fell, Isabel staggered to the pack's border and blocked the path of a returning patrol. She dropped to her knees in front of Cashin, her face streaked with rain and tears. "Cashin! Please," she sobbed. "I was wrong. I apologize. Just let me come home." Cashin looked down at her with cold steel eyes. "You don't deserve to call me that. I realize I was wrong. I shouldn't have poisoned Maya," she cried, clinging to his pant leg. "I should not have ruined everything you had. Please, I will do anything. Just let me come back." Cashin did not flinch, instead raising his hand and gesturing to the guards. "Remove her. If you see her again, shoot her on sight." Cashin didn't blink when the guards grabbed her and dragged her away, despite her screams and thrashing. There was no sympathy in his eyes, no tenderness in his heart for the woman who had cost him the love of his life. They dumped Isabel outside the pack boundary, and she collapsed in the mud, watching Cashin's silhouette fade into the distance. Then a crazed, broken laugh escaped from her throat. She finally realized what had happened. She had lost the only man who had ever treated her as if she were precious, and it was entirely her fault. Rain poured down, washing the mud off her face and mixing with her tears as they faded into the cold, unforgiving earth. Cashin had finally discovered the location of the Eastern Quarantine Healing Facility. It was situated 5 kilometers upwind of the Silver Dust Contamination Zone, specifically chosen for its proximity to the rescue routes while ensuring the medical staff remained safe from exposure. It was a wise choice, close enough to save lives, but far enough to protect those doing the saving. He had searched every corner of the pack, nearby towns, and even the places Maya had casually mentioned in conversation. Now, only one location remained unexplored. As he approached the front gate, a faint scent drifted past his nose, familiar but fleeting. Maya's scent was distinct, a gentle herbal fragrance. It disappeared as quickly as it appeared, like a phantom in the wind. "She's here," Cashin said quietly to himself, clenching his fists. Inside the facility, I was applying a special ointment to my skin that could completely mask my scent, which had been prepared by elder healer Eliza herself, as a precaution to ensure that no one from outside could track me down. Still, I could feel it. Cashin was just outside. "This area is restricted. No unauthorized entry," the guard stated, blocking his path. "I'm looking for someone," Cashin said, his voice full of hope. "Her name is Maya. She is the best healer I've ever known. I know she is here." I can feel it. The guard looked down at his clipboard. I'm sorry, sir. There is no one with that name here. Our only healer is a witch doctor named Dr. Zoe Blackburn. That is impossible. Cashin's voice rose. If this is a medical project, Maya must be present. No one else can heal the way she does, Alpha, the guard stated firmly. There is no Maya here. Please leave. Cashin's instincts, however, told him otherwise. Every night, when the world was quiet and still, he could feel a soft pulse of familiarity in the air. This is a restricted zone. No one is permitted to approach. The guard blocked him again. I'm the alpha of the pack, Cashin said through gritted teeth, and I order you to let me in. This is a high-security healing program. Even alphas have no authority here. Nevertheless, Cashin returned every day. He pleaded, threatened, and stood there quietly waiting. Unfortunately, the answer never changed. There is no Maya. Only Zoe. He began to stalk the perimeter like a wounded wolf, pacing, waiting, and calling out. At night, his voice would cut through the silver mist. Maya. I know you are in there. I apologize. That was my fault. Please come back. Internally, I continued to battle the lingering effects of Isabel's poison. Every treatment session left me dizzy, sometimes unconscious, and the toxins were gradually eroding my healing abilities, but I couldn't stop because there were too many wounded who needed me. Maya, you're getting worse, Elder Healer Eliza said, her voice full of concern. Every time I passed out, she sat by my side until I woke up, just as she had when I was a young apprentice years before. However, the patients. They need me, I whispered, looking out at the long queue of injured people waiting for assistance. My heart twisted with guilt. You're still as stubborn as ever. She sighed softly, her eyes gleaming with pride. But I found something in antidote herb. It comes from one of our ancient medical texts. She took out a small cloth bundle from her robe and opened it to reveal a luminous silver herb. I gathered it myself, from deep inside the silver dust zone. I may be old, but thankfully, I have not lost all of my abilities. Only then did I notice the faint burn marks on her hands. Master, my eyes welled with tears. She smiled gently and tapped me on the head, as she had done the day I healed my first patient. Silly child! You are my proudest student. How could I allow you to suffer? Under her care, my strength gradually returned, as did a piece of my old self. I began to smile again, small and tentative at first, but genuine. At night, when everything was still, I could hear Cashin calling my name from beyond the mist. His voice was full of regret and heartbreak. Even though my heart trembled at the sound. There are some paths in life that, once taken, remain behind you indefinitely. Cashin realized he was playing a dangerous game when he broke into the silver dust zone for the 10th time. The first time, he had only been mildly poisoned and could be easily treated by a regular healer. However, when he did not see the familiar figure he had hoped for during treatment, he went deeper the second time. Maybe if I get hurt badly enough, she'll appear, he murmured to himself, charging into the toxic zone again and again. Each time, his injuries worsened, but someone else treated him. By the 5th time, he was coughing up blood, and by the 7th, his skin was covered in festering, raw burns caused by the silver dust. Still, he refused to give up because he knew she was hiding somewhere in this facility. This time, he threw himself into the densest part of the toxic zone with something close to a death wish. The silver dust surged into his lungs, and just before he passed out, he caught a fleeting trace of a familiar scent. When he awoke, he was in a bright, clean treatment room. A veiled healer was tending to his wounds. Despite the layers of scent-masking ointment she had applied, the thick makeup and mask covering her face, those hands, that warm, radiant energy. He knew it right away. "Maya?" he inquired hesitantly, hope flickering in his dim eyes. My hand trembled slightly, but I didn't say anything, looking at his pale, hollowed face. A sharp pain twisted in my chest. The once proud alpha was now a broken man, his body bore the unmistakable marks of silver dust poisoning, and his sharp, handsome features were now gaunt and withered. He suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Your scent," his voice shook. "Even if you tried to hide it, I'd never miss it." "Maya, is that you?" Epilogue. He reached to remove my veil, but the other medical staff stopped him. His hands trembled, and his once steady eyes were now bloodshot and wild. "Don't move," I said in a hoarse, altered voice, suppressing the emotions that were surging inside me. "Or the treatment will be for nothing. You must be Maya, even if your face and voice have changed. I recognize you. I've been searching for you for so long." My hand paused briefly, but I did not respond to him. A small boy dashed into the room and threw himself into my arms. "Mommy!" He was a child I had saved in the treatment ward. His body had been ravaged by silver dust, and even the most experienced healers had said he wouldn't survive the night, but I couldn't give up on him. I treated him for 7 days and nights without rest, and he made it. Since then, the orphaned boy has clung to me, calling me Mommy. As I held him, his innocent smile warmed something deep inside of me. Cashin's eyes instantly dimmed as he watched how I held the child, and the light in his eyes faded away. "I'm sorry," his voice broke with emotion. "I failed you." He was returned to the pack shortly after, and word spread that he had fallen into a deep depression, locking himself in his room for days on end. As for me, I stayed and treated patient after patient in the Eastern facility. Gradually, I discovered a new sense of purpose, and the little boy I had saved brought warmth and strength into my world. 3 years later, when the program officially ended, my request to dissolve the mate bond was automatically approved due to our years of separation and Cashin and I no longer had a bond. I chose to stay in the East, away from the chaos, so that I could focus on healing and assisting those in need. Late at night, I reflected on the past. The pain had faded like a distant storm, leaving only a reverence for life and a quiet devotion to the art of healing. Perhaps it was fate. Despite the fact that I had once been a Luna and was now only a healer, I had discovered true peace and happiness in this quiet eastern land. The Maya who gave Cashin everything vanished long ago on a rainy night, leaving only a final letter. The woman who remained was no longer a Luna or a mate. She was the mother of a little boy with a bright smile. She was a healer. She was a beacon of hope for countless wounded souls.